UFC 295, Prochazka versus Pereira takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of Steve Erceg versus Alessandro Costa. I'm going to have to go with Steve Erceg here, not just because Alessandro Costa's taken this on short notice, but because Steve Erceg is really, really good. Beat David Dvorak in his debut. I believe he took that fight on short notice as well. Has a really good regional career. Was 9-1 coming into the UFC. Beat some decent opponents on the regional scene. Beat Shannon Ross. Finished him in the first round. I know what flyweight hasn't. But beating David Dvorak in his debut in the UFC on short notice is incredibly impressive. And I can't pick the guy who got hands put on him by Amir Albazi, who doesn't really have hands. You know what I'm saying? I think Amir Albazi more of a grappler. The fact that he could go to his hands to piece up Alessandro Costa. I know Costa took that fight on short notice, but I just think Steve Erceg is going to get this one done by decision. Maybe competitive, 29-28. Maybe a first round, Costa does quite well. Second two, Erceg starts picking it up. He seems to have really good pacing. However, I don't know why I'm even thinking this, but Steve Erceg just looks like the type of guy that's going to get really badly knocked out in a funny way. I don't know how to explain it. If anyone knows who FaZe Rug is, he just doesn't look like he's built to take punishment in any way. So I'm worried that maybe he could get chinned at some point, but I don't think it will be by Alessandro Costa. I've got Erceg by decision. We move on. Up the card to another fight, Kang versus John Castaneda. Majority of people are picking Kang here. I believe he's a slight underdog here against John Castaneda, but I just don't think Kang's that good. Landed a good shot in his last fight against Quinones. Good job. Caught him. Quinones was throwing the same moves over and over again. Kang caught him on the chin. Got the rear naked choke afterwards as well. Really good performance there. It's maybe the first good performance I've ever seen of Kang. Every other performance in his career that he's ever had, and he's getting older, by the way, he's 36 years old at bantamweight. Every other performance I've seen him have hasn't been the best. Like, he's beaten some decent opponents, but I've just never really been impressed with him. And I know you could say, well, you know, John Castaneda lost to Rani Yahya, which is incredibly embarrassing. And Kang also lost to Rani Yahya. So you can't really use that against John Castaneda here. I reckon he's got what it takes to keep it standing. And I just think on the feet, John Castaneda is a better striker than Kang. I rate his win over Miles Johns. I think that's a really solid win that he got there by decision. He also fought Nathaniel Wood in his debut fight. Wood beat him up, but he stayed in there competitive until the end. On very short notice, he took that fight as well. So I'm going to go with John Castaneda here, getting this one done. I reckon by decision. Again. I think it's going to be a fun scrap, but he'll get it done by decision. We move on. Up the card, Tabatha Ricci versus Lupita Godinez. I'm going to go with Lupita Godinez here. Tabatha Ricci wins fights. Don't get me wrong, she wins some fights. And I think her last win was against Polyana Viana, if I'm not mistaken. No, she beat Gillian Robertson after that. She just sort of gets top position. And I've not really been impressed by, like, any individual aspect of her game. Don't get me wrong. I've been impressed by some features of Tabatha Ricci during her fights, which may have distracted me from giving an honest assessment, I'll be honest with you. But I don't see anything crazy good. Like, I'm sure she has jiu-jitsu skills. We're not seeing it, really. Like, an armbar threat now and again. Okay. You know what I mean? A stand-up, I think Lupita Godinez is going to have a massive advantage in the stand-up. She seems to have that viciousness, and I think she can make Tabatha Ricci fight at a high pace that Tabatha Ricci is not going to be as comfortable fighting at. Tabatha Ricci gets control, she keeps control, and that's how she normally wins her fights. And she also did outstrike Gillian Robertson, but Robertson was throwing punches like she's never thrown punches in her life before. I think Lupita Godinez is actually quite good, very tough, throws punches like a man, and that is a huge advantage to have in women's MMA. So I'm going to go with Lupita Godinez for fighting like at times she knows what she's doing. I'm not saying Ricci doesn't, but I just think Lupita Godinez's aggressiveness and willingness to lead the dance is what's going to get her the advantage here in this matchup. So I'm going with Lupita Godinez by decision. We move on. Nazim Sadykhov versus Viacheslav Borshchev. Nazim Sadykhov, the grappling is the X factor here. Borshchev is not bad. I love watching Borshchev fight. I think this is a really underrated scrap on the card. Terence McKinney's also incredibly dangerous on the feet early in the fight. You know what I mean? Incredibly dangerous. And he's good at grappling himself offensively. Subbed for SCM very easily in the first round of their fight as well. And Nazim Sadykhov was able to deal with everything that Terence McKinney had for him and then turn it right back round on him in round 2. Now, I know Terence McKinney's got 5 rounds of fight and he absolutely quits. He's got no heart, no grit. But Nazim Sadykhov's composure under fire from a guy like Terence McKinney in the first round and under bad circumstances was good to see from him. So I think he's going to win this one with the mixing in of his takedowns. And I think he knows that. His team knows that. Smart gym, Serra Longo. They know when to use their grappling. It's not like they're a striker's gym. Like, a lot of them are grapplers and do really well with their grappling in MMA. So I think they're going to maybe be screaming at Nazim Sadykhov to go out there, get the takedown when he needs to, and beat Viacheslav Borshchev, who is an amazing striker. Don't get me wrong, a really, really good striker, but there just seems to be that problem in his takedown defense. I reckon these two are going to go at it on the feet. Maybe Borshchev will get the slight better of him on the feet, but I think the takedown threat and the takedown itself is going to start evening this fight out as it goes on, and I'm going to go with Nazim Sadykhov getting a late second round submission is what I'm going to go for there. We move on. Up the card, Denis Buzukja versus Jamall Emmers. I'm going with Jamall Emmers. I think he's very underrated, Jamall Emmers, and I think he always has been throughout his entire career. And Buzukja didn't really impress me against Sean Woodson, who I think fights in one of the goofiest ways I've ever seen. You could give the Jack Jenkins fight to Jamall Emmers, by the way. I rewatched the fight just to make sure, like, there's a world where that fight does go Jamall Emmers' way and it wouldn't be considered a robbery. Like, I actually thought Emmers maybe edged it when I first watched it, so very close fight. And Jack Jenkins, if you don't fluke break his arm out of place with a throw, he's really, really good on the feet and striking. And Jamall Emmers took it to him. So I think Jamall Emmers has sort of took time off and become a bit more of a veteran than he was when he first came into the UFC. And let's not forget, this guy lost some fights, but coming into the UFC, took Giga Chikadze to a split decision. Took him to a split decision in that fight. You know what I mean? Lost to Pat Sabatini, but he dropped Sabatini badly, rushed in and got heel hooked. You know what I mean? Like, he's had moments where he's good enough to hang at the top, but things just haven't gone his way sometimes with close decisions and things here and there. And, you know, he goes in for a finish and gets submitted. Like, if he stays composed, which I think he has been doing in his last 2 fights, he beats Buzukja 8 times out of 10. Great surname, by the way, for fighting. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which is, I'm opening up Tapology because there's a lot of changes, so the schedule's not accurate, so there might be a big bright light on my face now and again. Jared Gordon versus Mark Madsen. I think Mark Madsen's awful. I think he's awful. I really do. And the majority of people are picking him on Tapology. I don't think he's all that. I think Jared Gordon's pretty underrated. Now, I didn't like Jared Gordon's performance against Paddy Pimblett. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, what are you talking about? He beat Paddy Pimblett. I think he did as well. He won that fight. He got robbed by decision. I completely get it. But Pimblett had a broken foot from round 1 in that fight, and Gordon finished him after that. You know what I mean? Like, Gordon's very, very allergic to finishes. But in his last fight with Bobby Green, I was actually impressed. I know he got headbutt KO'd, which seemed really intentional from Bobby Green, to be honest with you. I know he got headbutt KO'd, but before that, he was looking really a lot better on the feet. He was making Bobby Green come towards him, and he was catching Bobby Green with these slick counter shots as he would rush in to try and land these shots on Jared Gordon. So I actually liked Jared Gordon's performance. I think he had a good game plan for the Bobby Green fight. He was on his way to looking really good in that fight, and then Bobby Green headbutted him to get the TKO. Ended up being a no contest. He's taken some time off since that fight now. I reckon Jared Gordon's going to be able to beat Mark Madsen. I don't see Mark Madsen out-grappling him. Mark Madsen hasn't really been able to out-grapple anyone in his career. Clay Guida made a really close fight with Mark Madsen. And Mark Madsen won it, but, like, on the feet, he's got nothing. In the offensive grappling, he's got nothing. You know what I mean? On the feet, he's got nothing. Offensive grappling, nothing. In the clinch, he's got good knees to the body, but I don't see him really locking up Jared Gordon in a clinch. That's a bit of a far-fetched thing to pick a fight based on. So I'm going to have to go with Jared Gordon. I think he's more versatile, and I think he's just a little bit better on the feet. We move on up the card to another fight, which is Joshua Van versus Kevin Borjas. I'm going to go with Joshua Van. I was really impressed with Joshua Van's debut. I don't even think I picked him in his debut. I think I ended up picking Zhalgas Magulov. But Joshua Van really impressed me, and he clearly beat Zhalgas. I know Zhalgas' career is just a bunch of split decisions here, split decisions there. Should have won that one, should have won that one, should have won this one. Joshua Van beat him. Like, flat out beat him. Looked really good on the feet. Stuffed a couple of takedowns, if I'm not mistaken, as well. I think Joshua Van's very good. I like his style. And I just think he's better than Kevin Borjas, who has some good wins, but has a good win when you're really thinking about it. You know what I mean? He had one win on the Contender Series. Very competitive fight. Very good, fun fight to watch, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm going to have to go with Joshua Van. I just think his striking technique is going to be the difference in this fight. He's a way more composed and calculated striker. Had a wicked jab, good low kicks. Really good Muay Thai style. And I think he's going to do enough to win with that style. So I'm going to go with Joshua Van getting that one done. We move on to the main card. Matt Frevola versus Benoit Saint-Denis. This is an interesting one to pick because a lot of people are picking Benoit Saint-Denis after his performance against Thiago Moises. I think Matt Frevola's really underrated and he's an underdog here, and I'm taking him. Taking him as an underdog. My underdog of the card is Matt Frevola. Now, I know I may end up on an Instagram video of Benoit Saint-Denis's, because anyone who picks against him, he makes a little collage of them after they pick against him. I completely get it. He looked great against Thiago Moises. But Moises has never really been all that on the feet. You know what I mean? He's a jiu-jitsu guy, and Benoit was offensively grappling with him smartly rather than letting Thiago Moises engage in those situations. And Benoit just trucked forward and put his chin on the line and swung in the pocket. There were moments in that fight, and I've rewatched the fight since. All I'm going to say is this. If I picked Benoit Saint-Denis because I think he's the better fighter, I'd have a really large hunch I was wrong. I really would have a massive hunch that I was wrong. Matt Frevola has nasty power, good wrestling, to where I don't think he's going to get dominated here. Arman did do well against him in the wrestling and chucked him around. I get it. But we've seen Matt Frevola do well in wrestling against other opponents. And he's getting better, and he trains at Serra-Longo. Great gym for wrestling. I think Matt Frevola is going to catch Benoit Saint-Denis trying to swing on him against a cage. I think that's Benoit's biggest weakness, is when he's swinging up against a cage with his combos, his chin is wide open. And Moises caught him a couple of times. Matt Frevola ain't Moises, and when his back's against a cage and he's swinging counter shots, that's where he's most dangerous. So I know a lot of people are picking Benoit Saint-Denis here, and this might be unpopular, but I'm going to go with Matt Frevola. I think Benoit's going to be doing good. Maybe winning technically, throwing some good kicks and stuff. But then I think he's going to get a little bit too comfortable going after Frevola against a cage. And then boom, Frevola's going to catch him with the shot that he put down Dober with. That left hook straight on the jaw. And he also caught Ottoman Azaitar with this as Azaitar was closing him down, trying to swing against a cage. Frevola's got dangerous power. He can wrestle. He beat Jalen Turner a long time ago before Jalen Turner recently lost again. I think Matt Frevola is very underrated, and I'm going to pick him to win by KO at the end of round 1 as Benoit tries to track him down against a cage and throw. We move on up the card to another fight, which is Diego Lopez versus Pat Sabatini, I believe the next fight on the card is. There it is. I might have done this in the wrong order, but still. Diego Lopez versus Pat Sabatini. I'm going to go with Diego Lopez. Pat Sabatini's main way of winning is using his jiu-jitsu and grappling offensively as well. Like, he likes to take the back. He likes to do pretty strict jiu-jitsu moves. Not too much in the damage department. His stand-up has got a little bit better, but mainly he's a jiu-jitsu guy. Likes to take people down, get the back. Diego Lopez is really, really good at jiu-jitsu, and he's really, really good off of his back if he does get taken down. And a lot of these fighters that end up giving their back, the reason why they give up their back is because they're uncomfortable on the ground. And as soon as they get taken down, they get into this position of, oh, I've got to get back up, I've got to get back up. They turn their back, and then Pat Sabatini jumps on the back. Sometimes when a guy is so comfortable on the ground, especially off of their back, They can opt to how they land on the ground. You know what I mean? They have a choice. It's not like, oh, I've got to get back up. I've got to get back up. If Lopez does feel like Sabatini's in on a takedown, I reckon he can just say, he's in on this one. I'm not going to fight it in case he gets my back. I'm going to opt for full guard on the ground and slice him up with elbows and throw up some dangerous submissions. I think that's going to help him in this fight. I think Diego Lopez is way better than Sabatini on the feet. What are the odds on this? Because Lopez was the underdog originally. He still is. He's still the underdog. Pat Sabatini is good, yeah. But Lopez is younger, larger by far, big dude for featherweight, 2.5-inch reach advantage. Sabatini's built like a T-Rex. Sabatini has been KO'd by Damon Jackson. Like, I know it was a front kick and it's like 1 in 100 chance, but I don't want to hear. Lopez just gave Movsar Evloev the toughest fight of his career on about a week's notice. Then goes out there against Gavin Tucker, an equally very good underranked or unranked featherweight. Went out there, subbed him in round 1. I'm going with Diego Lopez. I think he's slick, dangerous everywhere. I think he's going to get a TKO on Pat Sabatini, if I had to have a guess. We move on. Up the card. Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. I'm going Mackenzie Dern. If this was another time in Jessica Andrade's career, I would have said that Jessica Andrade would win this fight. But, one, I think Jessica Andrade is going to be a little bit different now. Just going to say it. She used to be the one that couldn't be KO'd, couldn't be finished, and had all of this confidence going forward and brawling in the pocket. And then she ran into Yan Xiaonan. Lemos she beat, but she ran into Yan Xiaonan. Who was it first? Beat Lauren Murphy, who can't fight at all. Erin Blanchfield did well against her on the feet. Took her down, subbed her in round 2 pretty easily. Yan Xiaonan slept her pretty badly in round 1. And then Tatiana Suarez just finished her as well. I think this is going to be the least confident Jessica Andrade we've seen. She's on a 3-fight losing streak. She's going to be under the impression of, I can't get a win recently. What's going on? I used to be picking up loads of wins at flyweight and stuff like this. And she just seems to be a bit lost on her back. And I think Mackenzie Dern's grappling offense and her toughness and boxing offense as well has gotten a lot better. A win over Angela Hill at strawweight dominantly is no joke in my opinion. And that's funny to say because you look at the record of Angela Hill and say, she's terrible. Angela Hill's very good and it's hard to dominate her. You can win a close decision against her like Amanda Lemos or, you could rob her like some other opponents have in Michelle Waterson and even Claudia Gadelia back in the day. I actually think Angela Hill's really good, but Mackenzie Dern looked really good, dropped her. Who drops Angela Hill? Not really anyone. And really badly hurt her and beat her up in certain rounds as well with ground control. So I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern getting a submission here over Jessica Andrade in round 2. I think she's massively improved and I think she's going to get this one done. We move on. And she's a lot bigger than Andrade as well. But I just think that's going to be... I think Andrade won't be the same and Dern's got a lot of momentum right now. Sergei Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall. Sergei Pavlovich, he's a great fighter. I'd love to fight him. And I think Tom Aspinall is going to get this one done. And I'm not being biased because he's English. I'm not being biased. Because we all know, I know he's a quarter Polish. But if he wins, he'll be Polish to all of you guys. And if he loses, he'll be a thoroughbred Brit. That's what he'll be. Through and through, this guy's British. Only if he loses will he be considered that. But then all of a sudden, if he wins, I know to you guys, technically he's Polish. You know what I mean? This is the annoying thing. But Tom Aspinall is going to win. I thought Sergei Pavlovich when I first saw this fight announced. I really did. But I've done some watching back of Sergei Pavlovich's fights. Nobody's moving around like Aspinall. Nobody's moving like Aspinall, dude. I was looking at them side by side. I had 2 separate boxes of windows for the fights of Aspinall's fight and then Pavlovich's fight. And I'm watching Pavlovich and his opponents plod forwards and backwards into each other. Pavlovich plods forward a bit, they plod backwards. They plod forwards a bit, Pavlovich plods backwards. Then he's plodding back forwards again. And I'm seeing Aspinall dancing, move, shake, like feint, see if he can draw out some shots, move, dancing around, switching stances on the outside. I think it's too much for Sergei Pavlovich's style to deal with, because listening to Tom Aspinall's interview, he said, I'm not dumb. I'm not going to go out there and be some kind of hype train from the UK and try and trade with him in the pocket. I know he's a powerful guy with great punches. I'm going to go out there and take him down and be smart about it. I'm a smart fighter, and I'm going to prove that as well. I'm going to be smart about this, and I'm not going to trade with him in the pocket. And I agree that he's not going to trade with him in the pocket. I believe in him. I believe in you, Tom Aspinall. I reckon Aspinall's going to dance around, magic on the feet, okay? Puppering in, throw a leg kick. Some of them might land, some of them might miss. I don't think he's going to be easy to hit for Pavlovich. A lot of Pavlovich's opponents are just standing there with their hands up, not moving well, trying to catch him. Tuivasa did it. Lewis went after him, swinging with his chin up in the air, out of range. Blades was stood there. Sometimes he was shifting around, but he kept getting in these modes where he would stand and wait to try and check hook Pavlovich, but then Pavlovich would just jab him and wobble him with it. Aspinall is going to be the most difficult guy for Pavlovich to land on so far in his career. And I think when there's a threat of a takedown, we do see a more difficult fight for Pavlovich. And I know they've all been in the first round, so who cares? Overeem did take him down and beat him up. I know he's improved. Completely understand that he's improved. But when Jamall fought him, it weren't quick and easy like it was against Tuivasa and Derek Lewis. When Blades fought him, it weren't as quick and easy. There were moments where he got caught and I was like, oh, hang on. Pavlovich is getting caught a little bit here, but he's got a great chin. I think Aspinall can move around to the point where he's starting to make Pavlovich a little bit more frustrated, and then Pavlovich is starting to reach with his shots a bit more. Pavlovich punches. He doesn't do anything else. And I'm watching Aspinall versus Volkov, and the way he looked in front of the bright lights in his first main event at UFC London, it was literally you couldn't have written it. That was one of the best performances of all time at heavyweight, in my opinion. He was moving around, slipping out the way of shots, shooting double legs off of a slipped jab. This is different heavyweight movement, and I think he's got way more tools to try and win. So I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall. And I also want to say, he was injured a while ago. He's now came back, fought Marcin Tybura, shaken off the cobwebs, fought him in July, so he's been reasonably active as well. Seems like he's in shape. I want to say, when you've taken time off to recover from your injury, you're coming back guaranteed fresh. When you take an injury like that, you're like, I'm not coming back until I'm all good. Pavlovich, he's a heavyweight, and his activity recently, if anyone's going to be going into this fight with some kind of injury, it's going to be him, I think. I think he's just literally on the mindset of, I'll take anything, keep fighting no matter what, I'll fight, doesn't matter what I'm dealing with. He fought Jamall, March 2022, Derek Lewis, July 2022, December, Tuivasa, then he comes back, fights Blades in April, and then he's the backup opponent for November. He's been on a hell of a schedule with no time off. And I'm just thinking, if there are any small injuries, they're only going to be building up. I think Aspinall's going to get this one done. I reckon Aspinall gets this one done by submission in the second round is what I'm going to go for. I think he moves too well. I think he'll get the takedown at some point on Pavlovich. And I think Pavlovich, although he's good at wrestling initially, I think he's a little bit too top heavy on the ground. And I think we could see a situation where he sort of can't get back up from bottom position. You know what I mean? So I think Aspinall's going to find the takedown, get into a good position, and eventually get a rear naked choke up against the cage, I think is what's going to happen here. So Tom Aspinall, round 2 submission, gets a takedown in round 1. Maybe Pavlovich gets back up, but I think we're going to see Pavlovich slow a bit, start to miss a few of his shots. Aspinall's going to get caught sometimes. I do think that's going to happen, but I also think he's going to catch Pavlovich. And I just think Aspinall, even if he fails a takedown in round 1 or gets it and Pavlovich gets back up, I think it will change the way Pavlovich fights. Too simple. Aspinall's too dynamic. I think he's going to win. Submission round 2. We move on to the main event. Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. I'm going to go with Alex Pereira over Jiri Prochazka. I know Jiri is far more experienced and he maybe could offensively grapple, but I think it's time to say that there ain't really a strong weakness in Alex Pereira's grappling. He got taken down by Alessandro in what he thought would be a striking match. And other than that, a lot of fighters have tried to take him down. You know what I mean? Andreas Michailidis tried to take him down. Not good, I get it, but a grappler. You know, a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Tried to get him down. Couldn't get him down in any way significantly in that fight to do anything whatsoever. In Bruno Silva fight, Bruno Silva tried to get him down. At times did. He got back up, man. He got back up. He got back up in that fight. Adesanya tried to take him down a lot more than just that one time in the third round in their first fight, and he stuffed him. He stuffed the takedowns. Blachowicz got him down, got the back. He stayed safe, got back up, and got it done on the feet when he needed to. At altitude. That's the worst possible way it could have gone, that fight. Blachowicz, massive dude, on his back, round one, at altitude. First time at 205. I think momentum with Alex Pereira here is going to be a big deal. Jiri has no momentum right now. I liked Jiri with some momentum. Like, he's coming off a great win. The Glover fight, he took a lot of damage. He took a lot of damage in the Glover fight. And now Alex has Glover to try and help him with this matchup as well. Here's what he doesn't do good. Here's the mistakes that he makes on the feet. Because let's not forget, although there was a takedown threat, Glover was wobbling Jiri in moments. He had him wobbled in round 5 before he pulled the guillotine. I reckon Pereira's going to TKO Jiri in round 2 or 1. I've been watching Jiri's fights, and even on the highlights of the promo that they put up about this fight as well, do me a favor, and just any time you see Jiri throw a shot, please do me this favor. Look at where his right hand is. Whenever he's throwing stuff, look at where his right hand is. It's literally by his waist. And I know he throws stuff from weird angles, and that is his advantage. But Pereira does weird angle stuff as well. So he's going to maybe weird. He's going to be weird with Jiri here. When Jiri throws his right hand, it doesn't come back to his chin. He throws it, it dips down in front of him, he steps through, throws the left, front kick to the body. He does weird stuff, and it does work. I get it, but he gets wobbled in every fight. Glover wobbled him, really badly hurt him. Ozdemir wobbled him, really badly hurt him. Reyes wobbled him, really badly hurt him, but then pulled a guillotine like a moron. Most fighters are. I think Pereira is going to be able to hurt him and then find the finish on him afterwards. I'm going with Pereira with that left hook. I've just noticed Jiri's right hand is just never by his chin. And I like Jiri, and he's got a good chin, and I almost hope he wins because he's so fun. One of my favorite fighters. I picked him against Reyes. I didn't pick him against Glover, but in hindsight, I could have been right there, but he pulled off the win in the 5th round. After the shoulder injury, he hasn't fought since June of 2022. He's been out for a year and a half with injury, recovering from that injury. Pereira's been active. This is it for him now. He's 35. He's got to get it now. Stayed active. Beat Jan Blachowicz right back in there. I think momentum's going to be a big thing here, especially in the first round under the bright lights and the cheering crowd at MSG for the belt. And I reckon Pereira's going to catch him on the chin and hurt him and then put him away by TKO. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.